Hi, good morning. Okay, thanks for coming along. My name's Kathryn McMann. I'll go for that. So welcome to How to Turn Your Team into Digital Dynamos. Okay, so a little bit about me, first of all, just so you kind of got a bit of stuff to back up. My name's Kathryn McMann. I run Kathryn McMann Consultancy. Our stand is just over there. I am a, let's double check that. I am a digital marketing communications expert. I'm also a business coach and an agency owner, and that's Kathryn McMann Consultancy side. I also run Thinking Institute, which is bite-sized live training. And I'll be talking more a bit about this a bit later, but it's not all about that. I have 20 years in the business. I have seen things come and go an awful lot. I've seen the growth of everything, and I've seen things crash and burn whilst, establishing new technologies. I have worked across loads of different industries, public sector, corporate, down to individuals. People are people, essentially. They all follow the same niche. Okay, I'm also an RSA Fellow, a Colonel of Kentucky, Freeman in the City of Glasgow, and an Enterprise Advisor for colleges around the Surrey and South London area, which is great fun. It's about helping young people get into careers. They're always looking for volunteers if anyone's looking as well. So, right. These are just some of the clients I've worked with, just to give you an overview. I have either coached them, I've trained them, I've consulted, or I've run and led campaigns with them. Just a handful. Brilliant. It's not working. Okay. Right. On to the juicy bits. How to turn your team into digital dynamos. Now, there's two angles to this. It's because we live in a world where technology is moving incredibly rapidly. Things are moving so fast, it's really difficult to stay ahead of it. Even if you work in the industry, we are always on. So obviously, exponential growth in technology is very hard to keep up. But what happens with that as well is the fact that it changes consumer habits. And when you change consumer habits, people think they either know it or they start reacting in a different way that's unpredictable. We can't predict these things when people come up with new theories, new ideologies, new models. You also, obviously, post-COVID, we have virtual team working, which has been great, gives us a lot of flexibility, pick up the kids, get the washing done, all of that stuff that works with it. However, you do lose that layer of communication, which also loses the layer of clarity, and that also impacts your campaigns. This brings me to different levels of expertise across the team. If you have someone who isn't as experienced, not being in the office can be incredibly difficult. They lose that layer. It slows down your efficiency. It slows down the communication of what you're doing. It slows down your campaign. And then, of course, you've got the always-on environment. We are always twitching, always thinking. This actually breaks down our productivity, and there's little room to create the creative ideas and leverage any internal skills and passions. That one's key, by the way. People overlook that often. I often go into large organizations where they talk about, oh yeah, great, we're going to do 5 blog posts a week and we're going to send out all these tweets, and then they throw it to someone who's extremely busy. They don't care. They're not going to do it. You then have a battle and you've got a stuck pipeline on your hands. So you've got to think about all these different processes. People are part of your engine. Okay, so what can we do to counterbalance this, to build your dynamic dynamo team? First of all, this is so simple, but centralize your communications. Obvious, right? Really obvious. And yet so many people I know have not done this efficiently. This actually working in silo, working independently at home. So when you work independently, it's great, and we do have that speed, we have the flexibility with it, but again, it's that clarity of communication. People feel isolated, they feel stuck, lonely, and then the biggest thing here is you miss opportunities, things that maybe your colleague would have that conversation. Now, I'm not saying virtual working is bad at all. I'm saying you need to have a more efficient way of working with central communications. So, systemize your processes, ground that important information. I had one campaign where we lost 10 grand on something because someone put out the wrong email address, because the email address was flying around in emails. No one knew what the right one was. Everyone was too busy being busy. So get organized, ground your information, get really good storage. Now, I've put M365. Teams gets a bad rap. You're right, it's clunky, it's awful. It's built by developers but it actually bloody works. It's very, very clever. And if you know how it works, it is absolutely it's really successful if you can get all the parts moving. I would recommend getting a specialist to help you organize that, and it will make your company fluid. I've got Dropbox. Dropbox has a fantastic contract system. Does anyone use it at all? I can't remember what it's called. No? Or anyone use any other signed digital contracts? Okay. So there's lots of the versions out there. Use them. They absolutely shorten that lead time. You want to sign up customers, you want to sign up clients, do it very quickly. Arm your team. Arm your team. Loom, if you don't know it, try it, check it out. It's a widget that sits in your browser. It works brilliantly. It's a video widget where you can video your screen and your face at the same time. You have a limitation on 5 minutes, which is the free version, which I think is much better. It means you have to be succinct. It is quicker than an email and quicker than a meeting. You can get your point across pretty quickly. Loom, Otter. Otter is fantastic for transcription. There's lots of AI transcriptions out there. And project management tools. If you've got the right project management tool, that is going to manage and move your team. You still need meetings, you still need that communication, but a really good project management tool, I personally, I'm not paid by any of these people, but I personally recommend Monday.com. It's absolutely brilliant. Again, start with why do you want to do it, make a list of the very practical actions you want to take, and then build it in. This harmonizes efforts, streamlines workflow and communication. Okay. These are kind of some of the stuff of how to better manage your team. I am going to get into the more gritty stuff about the marketing. So another key one, and I've had this conversation all of yesterday, always start with why. Why are you doing something? Why are you doing TikTok? Why are you doing, let's move on, why are you doing social media over email? Why is email more important? What does email say that social media can't? For example, at what stage in that buyer's life cycle does it actually benefit your company? Always start with that. If you don't, because then otherwise you'll end up wasting money. I've seen so many wasted budgets because people jump onto the next fad. Cuts out the hype, and you build in your realistic KPIs because you know what you're looking for. You start with, what do I want to get out of this? Right, well, that's your KPI. It doesn't have to be newfangled language. Keep it simple. Don't stay fixed in how you've always done it. There might be, even though you want to get a certain place, there might be a different way of doing it. Okay, well, I did tweak these slides a little bit earlier. So, in my thinking training, we're always asking students why they chose that course and what they want to get out of that. That helps us build, that helps us get, thank you. That helps, actually that's a bit too high. There's a little bit of reverb back. Just tweak it down. Thank you. So we always start with, what do you want to get out of it? That builds rapport with the trainer, but it means we can actually tailor that information, so we can give you the examples, we can give you the case studies that work for you. And it helps us kind of understand where they're coming from. Okay, so this is number 3. Build a unique strategy that works for you. Don't buy into the hype. Again, right, I'm going to go into, this is the reason. There's loads of stuff out there. There's loads of experts telling you, so-called experts. I'm not going to criticize people. There are people who are experts, but you're not seeing the whole story behind that. These are just some reels that have come up. Now, for example, Alvin Wayne, interior designer. Alvin Wayne probably has an entire marketing team behind him, has an extensive email list. He has a very strategic plan in why he's doing that reel. And that's probably his 107th reel that he's created, and possibly the only one that got through. All the others were nonsense. They were trial and error, and they fell flat. And that's where you need to get to. So it's all very well that we see these people, particularly in social media. One thing I need to stress, digital marketing is not social media. Digital marketing is not social media. Digital marketing is so many things, so many things. Social media is one element, and it's changed exponentially. With AI, with the way the platforms work, with the way that consumer habits work, it has changed. So, you might, for example, these are just some business models. But you might, for example, have a business model, have something that works. For example, I had someone come to me yesterday and they want to launch a new arm of their business. Even though it's the same principle of what they're doing, it's a completely different target audience, which means that they have to go approach it in a very, very different way. Which brings me on to the sales funnel. Classic sales funnel, traditional one. So what does it mean? We have your 5 steps. Fairly simple. We want to get them in the funnel, so we get people interested. This is why we're here today, so we can understand what people want, we can understand and target the niche people. But what are you going to do at that stage? Well, that depends Say, for example, that depends where you're going to take them. What do you want to get out of it? For example, if you are a high-end car, Prius electric. I'm actually terrible at cars. I don't know anything about cars. But you are not going to do brilliantly in Instagram. However, you might do really well on Facebook Reels. Even though it's a very different platform, it's still social media. You also, the way you might approach it is you might work with your suppliers as well. So you need a whole other strategy for them. So at the top of your awareness funnel, you might have your press and PR. Very, very different approach and angle of talking about the benefits of that car, and then doing some social media, organic social media, maybe even some paid reels to drive traffic through to your site. Again, your approach is quite different. So what are you going to do with them when they come? You might create, from those reels, you might kind of get people through and create that traction, create them to sign up to an email address. You might then it might help you define who your target audience are, and then you can start to really tailor your PPC advertising. Your newsletter, for example, you're not necessarily going to send this straight out to all the people who've looked at the reels, but you might create a community for your suppliers and arm them with the information that they need that's going to come off the back of your reels that you've been putting out. So you have to think there is no one dynamic route. You have to think all the different touch points. At the decision stage, you might have a how-to video. One company which did really well with this is Stanley Tools. Really simple. How do you use this tool? Sounds really dumb, doesn't it? They did loads of 30-second short videos on their YouTube channel, and they then embedded them all within their site. So that kind of ticks your SEO, that ticks your different stage, your decision stage, it ticks your website, it ticks all those elements. But you need to think about the process of how are people going through it? What's going to be not just a value to them, not just a value to them, but how it's going to work. Let me think. How is it going to be of value to them to then go through to your website so they then make that call? So again, it's about building in the UX. Your action stage. Now this is key. Obviously this is where you want them to make the payment, and sometimes you'll have seeders or advocates who won't necessarily be your buyers, but they still have a value in your whole chain, and you need to factor that in. So your opt-in forms, again, your supplier list, it's very difficult to know with variations. Let's think about an example. So the Stanley Tools, they have people come to their website for the how-to. They are then going to have that brand in their head when they go to their local store. What would be useful on that page? Maybe a postcode. Where's your local store based on your user information, based on your demographic? So, squeeze forms, it depends. If you're a coach, for example, you might take them through the process. You've done yourself a reel at the top. You might have done some press and PR in a particular business magazine or a lifestyle magazine to support those reels. Again, it's a chain reaction. You cannot think of this as linear, which is why everyone's journey is unique. And then you have the retention stage, memberships, loyalty, writing a review. How many times have you bought a product based on some random stranger's review? Because you know that they're random. They have no benefit to them to tell you exactly how their experience was. This is how Amazon thrives. Okay, and this is where you upsell. Customer support is crucial. Now, you can use AI in there, but maybe there's value in actually having a team at the back end of that. This is the bit I love, is how it feeds back in. So that review feeds back in and tells other buyers. Those people that have gone to your website tells the search engines that those are the people you're targeting. It brings it all back. It feeds back. You'll get your path correct. It will nurture it for you. Okay, so that's all of them together. Right, so that's fairly straightforward. We have a non-linear path that you have to plot for your business that is, of course, unique. You also have to think about the people and your resources inside that organization. Now, if, for example, I have had multiple companies come to me and say they've seen customers drop off because they couldn't pay. And this is not about the fact that because people didn't want to pay, they wanted to pay. But the whole process held up them getting that product. So they ended up going off to competitors because The invoicing was somebody else's problem. No one thought about the connection between, and of course digital connects all of that up. If you're working with people at home, you need that digital information, you need that connection. Not just your PR and social, by the way, should absolutely be talking. They should always be talking. Your sales, obviously, there's a huge connection between sales and marketing, but there is also a clear skills base and distinction between the two as well. So if you're a small organisation, understanding that and knowing where it starts and it stops is also important, part of your sales funnel. Just to go back, with the sales funnel here, the traditional marketing and sales, marketing used to be the top two and the bottom three were sales. And now marketing is the top three to four and sales is the last two. There is a huge jump in the overlap and the sales team pick it up and they don't know what you've discussed. They don't know the story that you've been through. They need to know the story that you've been through as an individual, as a consumer. So you've got to think about the people, you've got to think about your resources. You don't have Apple's budget, right? So in the same context, when I do the training, I won't bring up Apple case studies because it's irrelevant. But you do have a certain amount of budget. You might have someone who is passionate inside your organization who goes, you know what, I love taking pictures. I'm always on Instagram. Great. Get them to be your photo person. Get them to build a content bank. Arm them with the tools. Okay. Foster continuous learning. So build a culture of ongoing learning. Things are moving fast and rapidly. Get people engaged. Get them to fit it in when it suits them. Again, people are people. We are not just cramming them into boxes. It doesn't work. You get very disgruntled employees or team members if there's a lack of communication there. Create the room to create. Again, it's about that creativity. You wouldn't believe the amount. Woo! Sorry. You wouldn't believe the amount of clients I've worked with who they know what it is. They've just got no room and no time to kind of come up with something new. Sometimes they just need prodding in the right direction. So with thinking, we use a lean approach to learning. A lean approach is basically you learn while you build. It's a very agile process. Does everyone understand agile? What do you mean by agile? Agile project management. You learn, you create, you build. You learn, you create, you build. It's very quick and momentous, and you make action very quickly. It may not be brilliant action, but it does mean that initially you get to test it often in real time. Again, you have to gauge how that is, depending on the campaign that you're doing and what you're running. If you've put an awful lot of time and budget into it, you've got to be careful. You've got to know what you're doing. But with our training, what we do is we teach and we create activities, and you can create your strategy and your learning immediately. Right, AI. I couldn't go past without talking about AI, because AI is everywhere. AI is great. It really has sped everything off. Great, we can be online even more. We can do everything even faster till we spin around. AI is a tool. It's not a single solution. It needs an individual to drive it. These are just some of the things you can do with AI. There's loads more. You can build websites. You can do tons of stuff. You just need to think about what it is that you want to do, which brings me back to why. Why are you doing that? Okay, who are your audience? Why are you doing that? Where are we going with this? Okay, let's plot this, map this out. Is this going to work for them? Are they going to communicate there? There's all these questions it brings up, and again, creating that space of learning and space to grow and develop. So that was building a dynamic team in a nutshell. It really was touching the base. Very quickly, centralize your communications, build your virtual war room. That's what I like to call it. Just because there will be points where you're like, go, quick, deadline, get there. Some of the best campaigns are the ones you don't hear a single thing about it until launch day. Always start with the why and the rationale for doing something. Build a strategy that's right for your people, your resources, and your business model. Just because you've done something and it works really well on this end does not mean it's going to work if you bring in a new arm, a new product. You can niche down, niche and go smaller if you can. Again, everyone is different. It's very hard to be very wide on this. Foster an environment of continuous learning and thinking space for creativity. And AI is a tool, and you've got many, many tools in there, which is fantastic, and they're worth investing in. By the way, check, because a lot of them are like annual subscriptions, which is great, but that's how they get you in. It will do a little bit of something, and then you can move on to something else. Transcriptions of videos. There's apps where you can get film footage, throw it in, and whoop, it will give you all your social media videos. Fantastic. Still takes time. Do you need social media? You don't always need social media. So is that resource really worth doing? You've got to think about it in your planning. Okay, so I promised this at the beginning of my talk is a very simple quick-fire marketing strategy. It basically says what you want to do and the reason for it, what you're going to measure on it. So you're welcome to download it if you so wish, or by all means email me if you want it. I've got others. Right, quick. Wouldn't go past it. It would make sense if I talk about thinking. So I'm just over there, Thinking Institute. It is bite-sized live training. It can work in any schedule, and it can work across timelines. And you build while you learn. It depends what you're learning. Sometimes you might not be building. You might just understand and learn. We might go more into depth of how digital can work, and then build your own sales funnel strategies, for example. We also work and group together and bundles. Obviously, it makes it cheaper and it's more effective. You get more out of it, and you build rapport with trainers. There are multiple different hours. So some of them are like an hour, hour 1, hour 2. Some of them are 10 hours. Now that's spread over 5 days. We never do more than 2 hours in a day because you are online. I'm not going to cram all this information in your head. You're not going to take it on board. We want you to turn up. We want you to be engaged. We want it to work for you. So it's about constant communication. I'm not sure if I mentioned, it is live. So we will know you. We will know what you do. Now, very quickly, this works hand in hand as we also offer Accelerate Coaching, which is, we do one-to-one, but we also do groups, and the group doesn't mean that you turn up and have to wait to be heard. It means you can turn up at any point 16 times throughout that month, and you're only with us for 4 months. We do not sign you up, we do not lock you in. It's about you going, this is what I want to do. And every person who comes on gets a strategy. So we have a roadmap to start with. So once I hope I started all right. So everyone gets a starter strategy. We start with that. We work on, you get 16 slots. You can come in and go, my email doesn't work, it bounced, or this didn't happen, and then we can go in. We can do tool walkthroughs. We can tell you how it works, basically, essentially. You'll be working with me. Right. Oh, and you also get, if you're signed up to that, you also get 10% off your training. I should also, and of course, absolutely, it's a money-back guarantee if you're not satisfied with it. I could promise you 6 figures, like everybody does, but if all your engines aren't working, I'm not going to tie you in for a year, 2 years, just to get you up to that point. I'm going to get you to a point where your business can succeed with that. So where it can flow, where you've got your automations, where things are working based on what you want to achieve out of it. Everyone is different. This is why I do a very comprehensive review of your business before we work together. Otherwise, I'm not helping you. You're just another number. Okay. I should say I'm also offering 10% off the training at the show today, and also Black Friday through to Monday. So that was it in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Again, I'm over at this stall over here. If you want to talk about your business, you want to get any free advice, because often everyone does, which is great. I love it. New challenges. Just over there, please come on over, grab a card, and get to know a bit more. Thank you very much for listening.